Jerry Boshoga was 46 years old when he walked into a business meeting in Roy Huiskral Centurion on the morning of November 18, 2024, and walked out a missing man. Within hours, his cell phone went dark. His BMW was later found abandoned at a nearby shopping center. In those first few days, friends and family hoped this was a misunderstanding or perhaps a hijacking gone wrong. But soon the silence turned to dread. The first ransom call came weeks later. Jerry's family received a demand for 60 million rands. It quickly dropped to 25 million rands, then again to about 10 million US dollars. Alongside these calls came something much darker, videos of Jerry himself. In the recordings, he pleads with his family, his voice cracking under pressure, his body showing signs of stress. "Tell them to bring the money," he says in one of the clips. "I can't take this anymore." He is not simply being held, he is being broken. Kidnappings for ransom are tragically common in South Africa. They target business people, doctors, foreign nationals, and increasingly ordinary citizens with any sign of wealth. But Jerry's case didn't feel like just another name on that long list. It felt targeted, it felt personal, and it wasn't long before whispers started, whispers of a name tied to power, money, and shadowy influence, Kat Matlala. At first, the connection seemed speculative, but then Jerry's own mother came forward. Her words were not shouted from a podium, but spoken plainly to those investigating. She believed Kat Matlala was behind her son's disappearance. She didn't claim it emotionally. She spoke from what she described as knowledge of past dealings, disagreements, and conversations her son had prior to his abduction. According to her, there was bad blood between the two men. Land, business, and money had come between them. And then Jerry vanished. Her suspicions are not isolated. Independent sources have confirmed that Jerry and Matlala had interactions over proposed agricultural land acquisitions in Limpopo, deals worth tens of millions, potentially involving state-linked development funds and contested rural plots. Some within the family suggest Jerry may have refused to bend to certain pressures. He may have stood in someone's way. That someone, in their eyes, was Kat Matlala. It's easy to dismiss this as conjecture until you look at the broader picture. Because while the Boshoga family was grappling with police silence and inconsistent feedback, Kat Matlala's name was appearing somewhere else, in a bombshell internal SAPS report. According to Police Commissioner mkhwanazi, Matlala is not just a businessman. He is the alleged head of a sprawling criminal syndicate, one that extends into high-level SAPS leadership, municipal councils, and even ministerial offices. That's not speculation. That's sworn testimony. Commissioner mkhwanazi has gone on record accusing Matlala of orchestrating political assassinations, weapon smuggling, fraud, and influencing police task teams to protect his interests. In a rare and stunning admission, mkhwanazi claimed that Matlala was involved in the political sabotage of the SAPS' own anti-corruption teams, specifically the Political Killings Task Team, which was disbanded just as it began making connections in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. Among the most serious allegations is that Matlala helped arrange tenders, worth over 360 million rands to companies under his control, with links to firearm procurement and armed personnel. One of the reasons these claims are taken seriously is because of what was found on Matlala's phone. When seized by authorities, investigators uncovered direct communication between Matlala and Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, along with Mchunu's personal aide Brown Mohotsi. In the messages, Matlala allegedly references funding political campaigns, arranging events, and giving assistance to state actors. These messages are now at the center of a separate parliamentary investigation into potential state capture within the police services. When asked about the kidnapping of Jerry Boshoga, investigators admitted under oath that leads connected to Matlala were deprioritized. One officer reportedly told colleagues that there are eyes on this case from higher up. A source close to the IPID allegedly said they were warned not to pursue warrants tied to properties associated with Matlala's companies. This points to something far more dangerous than a standard ransom case. It hints at systemic interference, where investigations are selectively suppressed to protect powerful individuals. This disparity is even more painful when contrasted with how other kidnapping cases have been handled, particularly when the victims are politically connected. In June 2024, Moipone Mtlongo, a member of the Gauteng provincial legislature, was kidnapped in Daveyton. Within hours, a rapid response team was deployed, drones were in the air, and within 5 hours she was rescued. The case was closed in less than a week. Just a year earlier, UDM deputy leader Mkhwanazi was abducted in Khayelitsha. Once again, within days, police had found him and arrested suspects. Those rescues show that the resources and urgency do exist. The system can work, but only when those in power care to make it work. Jerry's case, however, was slow-walked. Evidence went unexamined for weeks. Leads were handed off to new teams without explanation. Requests for updates were ignored. The family says that even basic forensic procedures, like triangulating cell tower data from the area of disappearance, were delayed without reason. And all the while, the name Cat Matlala hovered in the background, unspoken officially, but well known to everyone involved. This kidnapping, if Matlala's link is eventually proven, won't just be about ransom. It would be a coordinated, deliberate operation designed to eliminate a business obstacle, or to send a message. It would confirm fears that certain syndicates in South Africa are not only operating with impunity, but are being shielded by those sworn to dismantle them. The scale of the alleged network around Matlala is breathtaking. According to investigative journalists, his associates include private security moguls, municipal procurement officers, and political fixers. His companies are linked to high-value land parcels in Limpopo and Mpumalanga. His name appears in connection with seized firearms, shell companies, and procurement scandals. He has not yet been convicted. But where his name appears, trails of intimidation, money, and silence tend to follow. And that silence now surrounds Jerry Boshoga. What began as a missing persons case has become a test of the rule of law. It is a test of whether a private citizen with no public title is worth the same response as an elected official. Jerry's mother continues to speak his name. She continues to demand answers. And her voice joins a growing number of South Africans who are tired of watching the powerful rewrite reality. If even one of her claims is proven true, it would mean that a private citizen was targeted by a syndicate so connected that it believed it could get away with it. But to understand the depth of this rot, we need to pull back the curtain on South Africa's kidnapping mafia. This isn't a figure of speech. This is the language used by investigators, journalists, and global crime analysts who've tracked the rise of what has become one of the most organized extortion ecosystems in the Southern Hemisphere. The kidnapping for ransom wave did not erupt overnight. It quietly began around 2016, when ransom kidnappings increased in frequency and sophistication. By 2019, SAPS was recording over 100 such cases annually, many involving wealthy foreign nationals, particularly businessmen from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Somalia. In several of these cases, investigations revealed that the perpetrators were not unrelated South African criminal syndicates, but rather rival networks or actors from within the victims' own communities. Disputes over money, business competition, or illicit operations such as fake documentation and parallel economies often turned violent, transforming into calculated abductions framed as ransom operations. SAPS reports and Hawks briefings from 2020 to 2023 confirmed this pattern in multiple clusters, especially in areas like Johannesburg's Fordsburg and Durban's commercial districts. These cases were complex, involving language barriers, transnational money trails, and communities reluctant to testify. Still, they mark the foundation of something larger. What began as isolated disputes gradually evolved into a broader ecosystem, one where both local and foreign networks began collaborating, sharing tactics, and eventually professionalizing kidnapping as a business model. These networks behaved like cartels. Territories were assigned. Warnings were issued. Violence was used to enforce silence. Some cells worked exclusively in Durban or Johannesburg. Others moved between provinces. And unlike street gangs, these groups were not visible. Their members worked in banks, security firms, police stations. They had insiders everywhere. In one infamous Cape Town case, a businessman was held for over 60 days while his family negotiated a ransom over 300 million rands. He lived. Others did not. Between 2020 and 2024, multiple bodies were recovered in Mpumalanga, dumped after families failed to pay. The pandemic should have halted these operations, but instead they adapted, using financial desperation to recruit more operatives, deepening their reach into smaller towns and peri-urban communities. By 2023, over 200 cases had been logged in Gauteng alone. Then came the big players, figures like Matlala, alleged by some to be the financiers or godfathers behind multiple operations. These men didn't snatch people off the street. They orchestrated, they funded, they buried evidence. This is what Jerry's case appears to resemble. Not random violence, but a message sent by a system so confident in its protection that it leaves the family to pick up the pieces while it moves on. And unless that system is broken open, this won't be the last time a voice like Jerry's pleads through a grainy video, wondering if anyone still cares enough to save him. This is not hyperbole, it is the emerging reality. In April 2025, American pastor Josh Sullivan was abducted mid-sermon by masked gunmen in Motherwell Township, Eastern Cape. The Hawks' response was swift and lethal. Within 5 days, a specialized task team engaged in a shootout, killed 3 captors, and rescued him unharmed. In June 2024, a 9-year-old East London girl named Emin Gunman was seized outside her school. A ransom video surfaced. Within a week, police arrested 3 suspects and secured her safely. And in January 2024, a wealthy Canadian businessman and his family were stopped by a blue light hijacking gang in Mbombela. The group held them overnight, forced ATM withdrawals, then released them with losses of over $10,000. These operations show that when kidnappings capture public or international attention, SAPS mobilizes advanced resources, from Hawks units to CCTV tracking, intelligence collaborations, and high-intensity interventions. That's why these cases become headlines. But for ordinary citizens, especially when powerful players may be involved, kidnapping is a silent war. Blue light gangs impersonate police, snatch nurses from taxis in Pretoria, and hold them until their families withdraw whatever funds they can get from banking apps. Kidnapping here is no longer just crime. It is a show of force, an assertion of control by those who know they have leverage over both victims and authorities. If the police want to dismantle the mafia, they must go further than rescuing pastors and politicians. They must follow the breadcrumbs in Jerry Boshoga's case, pursue Matlala with the same urgency, and investigate, not ignore, the evidence tying him to a broader criminal architecture. But that's the uncomfortable truth. The very institutions expected to dismantle these networks are, in many cases, compromised. When the investigators are compromised, when evidence is buried by the same people meant to act on it, and when known names are allowed to operate untouched, then justice becomes a performance, not a process. So what's left? Pressure, exposure, public scrutiny that doesn't fade. Because if the police can't or won't act, then the public must demand that those with the power to intervene no longer have the option of silence. These aren't isolated crimes. This is a system, and no system dismantles itself unless it's forced to. Until that happens, the faces of the missing, like Jerry's, will remain haunting proof of how far impunity can go when it's protected from the top down.